Hey, back again for Speaking Spurs, talking all things Tottenham. It's me, Kieran. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and comment, and we'll have a conversation. So today we're back and we're going to talk about the international break in terms of what's happened with our players, and it's not been the best time for us, mostly injury. We'll have a look at what our possible lineup could be heading into that game against Crystal Palace as well. So let's talk international break first. We'll start with a bit of positive rather than negativity. Harry Kane has scored for the 15th straight game in qualifying for England. He's now moved up to 5th in the all-time goal-scoring charts. He's now leapfrogged Michael Owen. He's now on 41 goals. He's got plenty of time to keep working his way up that. And I'd fully expect him to be the all-time leading goal scorer for England in the not-too-distant future. As well, Pascozzi, Ben Davies and Joe Rodon, they've all played their international games and managed to come through it completely unscathed, which is good news because there's a possibility we're going to need to call on Rodon heading into at least the game against Crystal Palace. Reguilón got his way back into the Spain squad. He made his first appearance since November last year, so that's great for him because he had a pretty weird time towards the end of the season, didn't he? His injury certainly didn't help him. He came back and was a bit iffy after that. But look, he's looking better now. Back in the Spain squad, that's a great thing for him. Galini, he was an unused sub in the last game for Italy, so he's coming back injury-free, which is great. Now we move on to the negative side of things, really. We picked up a few injuries, some minor, some a bit more severe, and then there's also COVID-related issues as well. So we know Lo Celso, Romero and Sanchez, they obviously all went off to South America. We knew they were going to have to isolate before they could play. A lot of Premier League clubs didn't want to send off their South American players, and also some of the players in the African teams as well were in red zone countries. So Brazil, where they were playing their opening game, is one of the red zone countries. It was really, really weird. So Lo Celso and Romero were due to play Argentina versus Brazil. 6 minutes into the game, it was halted by health officials because COVID regulations had been broken. Lo Celso and Romero hadn't isolated and had their 14-day quarantine when they entered Brazil. They weren't the only players that had been breaching rules. Game was stopped, completely abandoned. And they're due to be back with us at some point. However, if they'd have come back to the UK, they'd have had to have isolated in a hotel room. I explained it before that if they were going to train, they would have to be in a room, guarded. They would have to train on their own. They couldn't train together. What's now happened, Romero, Lo Celso and Sanchez, they've all headed over to Croatia because there's a loophole. Croatia are on the green list, so they can go over there and do their isolation. However, they will be able to train together. They'll be able to train outside, so that's great in terms of fitness. There's more they can do. They can certainly play some football between them as well, so hopefully they come back raring to go and in decent condition. What else? Sonny. So I don't know how serious this is. There haven't been enough reports yet to tell us what's going on. I'm assuming Nuno's press conference will reveal more about players' availability. But Sonny was left out of South Korea's last game versus Lebanon. It was only a precaution. The manager come out and said that he was feeling, where was it? Felt uncomfortable in his right calf. So he was rested for the game. Hopefully it was a minor twinge and he'll be back. But, still it's a little bit of a fitness concern. Skippy is the next one. Oliver Skipp, who's played every minute in the Premier League so far for us. He's been playing fairly well, adjusting his way into life at Tottenham again after having that successful season on loan to Norwich. He picked up an injury as well. This one was against Kosovo in a 2-0 win for the under-21s. He limped off with a groin injury. It's a bit of a shame, really. However, silver lining is Winksy apparently has been putting the effort in training. Nuno's been impressed with him. There was also a video that went up by Spurs. The guys, when they don't go on the international duty, you'll find Spurs tend to do videos with those guys. There was one where, you get the ball that fires the machine. It fires the ball in high speed and they do like the first touch challenge within a box and they score points. Winksy's first touch with those balls being fired in was unreal. I mean, that doesn't say too much about what could happen in a game, because his first touch, it's never really been bad anyway. It's more his sideways and backwards passing that's been a concern recently. But we'll see what happens there. Nuno's certainly been impressed with him, so he's obviously been putting it in training and trying to get back to that Winksor that we saw tear Real Madrid apart. So Skippy could be out. Sessengnon as well. He actually suffered an injury in training the day before Skipp. So that's him out possibly as well. And then Steven Bergwijn, he finally gets called back into the Netherlands squad. He gets an injury. You may have seen pictures of him with ice strapped to his ankle. Don't know how serious that one is yet. Waiting on that, but hopefully that's just a minor one as well. You know, with these ankle ones, sometimes it's not a huge one. I mean, the amount of times I play football and I come off with a bad ankle that should probably be ice just because somebody's kicked me in the ankle and it's just a bit sore for a couple of days. Hopefully that's that. However, on the flip side, there's Lucas Moura to come in for him. Hill is another one that can come in. So you would expect with, you know, Sonny and Sessengnon. Well, Sessengnon doesn't really play much anyway, but Sonny and Bergwijn, that's who I mean, Bergwijn. Sonny and Bergwijn, we've got replacements for them coming in, although it's not maybe to the same quality. It's not bad. So we'll break away from that now. Whilst they've been away on international duty, however, 18-year-old Iago Santiago. So he actually joined us from Celta Vigo. He's not been with us very long. 2 years now. Plenty of promise. Young talent. Many have labelled him as a wonder kid. It's a bit strange though because he's behind Dane Scarlett in the pecking order, but he's been called up to first team training whilst the others have been on international duty. You would have maybe seen pictures of him alongside the likes of Dele Alli, people that were left behind. So he's been involved. Nuno's had a good look at him. So that can only be good for his development and future. A little bit on transfers. So you would have seen that we were linked with Frank Kessie a few times during the transfer window. Nothing materialised whatsoever from that. However, he's rejected another contract offer from AC Milan. They offered him $5 and a bit million extra a year. He's turned that down, which it gives us the impression that he wants to move to maybe a different league. So that's someone that we were looking at, and apparently we're trying to engineer a swap deal involving Tanguy Ndombele. Now I'd assume because Frank Kessie hasn't got as long on his contract left as somebody like Tanguy Ndombele, I would assume it would be Tanguy going one way, Frank Kessie coming in, and we would receive money as well. I wouldn't like to think that we'd let our record signing go and pay money for Frank Kessie. But we'll keep an eye on that because we've also got competition from Chelsea and PSG. So if it comes down to money, that's probably where he's going to go, one of them two. However, if it comes down to opportunities for first team football, expect him to come our way. And that will depend on what happens with us this season. But apparently we're looking at a January approach for that one. Matt Doherty, there's been a lot of Ireland fans talking about him on international duty, really praising him. So he's played the 3 games for them, has looked pretty impressive for them, and maybe it's just a comfort thing. You know, he knows he's relied upon there. He's more of an influential figure, one of the more senior players within the squad. So, you know, maybe for him he feels welcomed there, feels a bit more responsibility, hence his better performances. So, you know, we'll see what happens with that one. If Nuno was having a watch, was he impressed? But, you know, he's pretty much third choice for us now with Emerson Royale coming in and Tanganga certainly putting a stake for the claim on that spot. So if we move on now to a possible lineup against Crystal Palace. So we've got them coming up this weekend. It's going to be a tough one because we've got a fair few potential injuries and players missing. We already know Lo Celso, Romero and Sanchez will be missing for that game. And really the killer blow there is actually Sanchez, believe it or not. Obviously Romero is still coming back to fitness. He hasn't been ready or comfortable for Premier League minutes yet, hasn't played a game and felt comfortable after the game. So that injury still niggle him a little bit. Sanchez has been pretty impressive to start with. Obviously, we conceded no goals in the Premier League. Nuno is just won Manager of the Month as well. Obviously, brand new manager in Spurs. We were in dire straits last season. We're currently sitting top of the Premier League. First manager to win 3 consecutive games for Spurs in the Premier League. Something that Mourinho could have done last season, but couldn't get over the line with it. So Sanchez has been pretty solid so far. Nothing like the Sanchez we saw last season. He's been partnered next to Dyer. They've done well, so he'll be the big miss there. So we're without Lo Celso, Romero and Sanchez due to isolation. And then obviously Sessengnon, Bergwijn, Sonny and Skipp are potential injuries. Now of them, Romero wasn't necessarily going to start anyway, but certainly Lo Celso, Bergwijn, Son, Skipp, Sanchez. That's 5 of them that probably would have started that could potentially not be there. So my predicted lineup would be Lloris in goal, Dyer and Rodon to partner each other as centre-backs. Now Rodon's got some more minutes under his belt internationally as well. Reguilon and Tanganga would probably be the preferred to start with in the full-back positions. You know, he might give Emerson his debut, but I think probably we'll go with Tanganga just for a bit of solidity. Then Højbjerg and Winks. I think Winksy will come in to replace Skipp. It's the natural replacement with Dele maintaining his place as he wasn't on international duty. There's no reason he shouldn't play. The wide areas I would fully expect if Sessegnon and Son are injured, Hill on one side and Moura on the other, and then Harry Kane up top. You know, that's fairly fluid depending on what goes on. If some of these guys back in their knocks are over and done with, expect a few of them to come out. If Sonny's okay, he definitely plays. If Bergwijn's okay, but it's touch and go, then I would probably expect Moura to play. If Skippy's fine, definitely expect him to play. But if Winksy's been impressing Nuno in the way that they're saying, then why not shove him in there? The other one to watch out for, Tanguy Ndombele. So you will have seen that he's been included in the Europa Conference League squad. So he has had talks with, I believe, Nuno and Paratici. I don't know who else was involved in the talks, whether Daniel Levy was part of them. There probably would have been a translator, as we saw in previous interviews with him. He's needed the translator there. So those talks have now apparently happened. He knows he's got to stay. If he wants a move, he's got to impress. He needs to be playing football. Otherwise, again, the reason we couldn't move him on is because there wasn't a serious offer and there was lack of offers that came in for Tanguy and Ndombele that we certainly know about in the press. Behind closed doors, there may have been stuff go on, but certainly wasn't really anything reported on. But apparently he's had the talks. He's willing to fight for his place. Look, he would really flourish in this system that Nuno plays. I genuinely think, and it's not just me that thinks that, several other people have said it as well. I think the guys at We Are Tottenham TV have said it. Alistair Gold has certainly said it as well. And I completely agree with them. I think he would really, really do well in this system. And it's just annoying as well because I really wanted him to kick on from last season. I thought he was one of our best players over the course of the season. Then for some reason he wasn't fancied under Ryan Mason. And I think that really put him out of sorts. Then obviously he's lost his 2 mates in Sissoko and Aurier. They're both out of the club. He's just had a kid. There's a lot going on in his life. And, you know, I don't think his attitude has helped things either. But look, he's ready to fight. And if we can get back the player from last season, that's certainly a great option for us. So he could be a surprise inclusion. I don't think he'll start. I do think Winksy will start over him. So expect Tanguy Ndombele to maybe be on the bench again. If not, expect him in one of those Europa Conference League games to start integrating him back into matches. So that's it from today. So yeah, an international roundup. Unfortunately, a shed ton of injuries that we don't really need right now. Especially as, although Palace is a game we should win, it's just come at the wrong time. We always have a difficult game against Crystal Palace. They really fight against us. I know they've got a different manager in place now. They've had their own problems with a lot of players leaving on free transfers, some of them big players as well. So we'll see what happens when we come round. So expect them to fight like they always do. Expect them to make it difficult for us. I'm working a double shift today. I've started work at 9 this morning and I'll finish at 5:15, then I move on to my next job straight off the bat. So I won't be done till 10:30 tonight, maybe. But if I can have a look at the press conference, I'll put a little video together. It won't be anything long, maybe a somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, so I don't bore you too much, just talking about what was said and what I personally think about what was said, and then you can have your comments and we'll discuss that, all right? So thanks for sticking around about the international roundup, the injury updates, a little transfer update, a positive note about one of the youngsters coming in, Iago Santiago, Doherty looking better, Harry Winks impressing, potential lineup. Let me know your potential lineups in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you support it with a like. Take care, guys. And as always, come on you Spurs.